Hi, and welcome back to the Distribution SXE version 11 Managing Operator Security course. We're in lesson number 3, Managing Operator Security Settings. In lesson number 2, we gave you an overview of the operator's records. Now we'll go into further detail and discuss the security settings on the operator's records. So after completing this lesson, you will be able to explain how security is assigned to an operator. In this lesson, you will describe the entry windows, explain the function security window, explain authorization points, and also authorization levels. For this lesson, our topics will be operator setup windows overview, maintaining operator entry windows, understanding functional security, operator authorization points security, also the operator authorization levels, and then you'll have a check your understanding. If you're following along using our training guide, lesson number 3, Maintaining Operator Security Settings, starts on page 27. In lesson number 2, we gave you an overview of the operator's records and a lot of the screens, the setups. So that will be a review. What I'm going to focus on in this video will be the functional security and then the authorization points. We know that the operator window controls the access for each person, the permissions, what they can and cannot do transaction-wise. We have the windows for an operator with the static information. The static information has the personal information for that operator. And you'll see static data and preferences. There's also the entry options. And on that view, you're looking at the entry options for sales and purchase order transactions, the entry functions, what you can and cannot do. And the entry options will be a yes to allow or no, not allow. You'll see options for an order writer to override the shipped quantity or to override cost or sales tax. So those are some of the things that you'll see on the entry options screen. And also you'll see allow entry of non-stocks. Can this order writer enter a sales order for non-stocks? Or can they tie to a purchase order or a warehouse transfer? There are other entry option settings here. You go through them and see some of the settings that are there for purchase orders, warehouse transfers, sales order entry. Allow PO entry of non-stock items. The approval warehouse. Can I enter a kit order and tie it to a purchase order or a transfer? Can I save a product, a catalog product in my stocked inventory? So those are some of the options. And then on the controls view, this is mostly for your costing and your GL accounts. And remember, for most operators or most employees, GL accounts are not really set on the operator. If they are, you're restricting them to a certain division or a certain department. But some of the controls are the cost controls. Am I allowed to change GL costs? Can I view cost? Can I view commission amounts? Am I allowed to complete mass maintenance? So these are some of your inventory control, processing controls. The accounting controls. Am I allowed to process trade invoices or expense invoices? Can I write off any cash receipts? Can I process add-on invoices? And again, as I said, I'm going through these kind of quickly because we did go through these on the last section and lesson number 2. We did go over these other options, and you'll see, am I allowed to access the administrative options? And if so, which screens, which views am I allowed to see? my EDI settings. But what we want to focus on in this video is functional security. All of the prior views that we went through, the entry options, the controls, they are giving me permissions to override or to allow me to do certain things. Functional security, I have access to that module. So it gives me access to a module and it controls if I'm able to access order entry transactions to even enter a sales order. The prior windows tells me permissions when entering sales orders, but this will give me the access to get to the screens, period. So what I'm going to do is jump over to SXE. If you have not already, go ahead and get logged into the system. We have an exercise coming up shortly. So go ahead and get logged into the system per the exercise 1.1 in this training guide or per the instructions from your project manager. Welcome back. Hopefully you've gotten logged into the system. If not, that's okay. We're going to review the operator's record, and we're looking in particular at the functional security view. So I'll jump over and we'll just use SASO, S-A-S-O, System Administrator Setup Operator. And we'll use my operator record and I'll click Edit so that we can get into the records. We reviewed earlier the static information, that's your personal information. The entry functions for your permissions, your override permissions for sales orders, purchase orders, warehouse transfer transactions. And then the controls, these are most of your costs. Am I allowed to view costs, to change GL costs? Other, it gives me my administrative settings, things that I can and cannot do. My administrative settings here, my EDI information is on this screen also. But we're focusing on the functional security. This gives me access to the different modules. Remember the entry functions, these are my overrides. Once I have access or security to access those views, the entry options, they are my overrides, what I can and cannot do on those screens. Now, when setting up a user's functional security, you're going to specify the following available to set options. You have the menu set, and that's normally set to web. We'll talk about the name in just a moment. If you're using the training workbook, we have a chart that discusses the name, and this is the field we mostly use when setting up the functional security. So with type, I have the options to select entry, inquiry, menu, other, reporting, transaction entry. And with title, I have the ability to select menu titles such as customer, sales, transfer. So my menu titles here on the far left side. So for title, if I select the menu title, let's say customer, and that's from my customer setup entry, right? From my customer AR. If I enter customer and click search, it gives me access to 7 options: my customer, customer inquiry, setup, ship to setup, and other customer reporting. And it shows if this option has sub menus, and it's showing my current functional access. And we'll talk about the functional level in just a few moments. So that's the title. And we'll talk about the name. So on the name, you're giving the employee access to that module. Again, very similar to what we did with customer, but now I'm defining the access a little bit more. So let me go out and back in and I'll show you. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to clear everything. So I'll cancel and go back in. So let's say I want to give this employee access to OE, so order entry and search. You'll see that there are 75 options. But now I see everything with OE, OED, OEDE. So all of the acronyms are there. OEDS, OEEE. If I wanted this customer or this employee to have access to order entry transactions, I must give them OE. I must give them OEE. And then now under OE, what am I giving them the ability to do for the entry? Can they view reports and run reports? Yes, I want them to be able to run reports. Nothing with commissions, nothing with crib tool, nothing with the handheld delivery. Will they be able to print journals? Maybe, so I'll select journals. Run acknowledgments? Maybe run acknowledgments. Backorder field? No. Convert quotes? Maybe no. Nothing with processing documents? OEEPD. Invoice processing? No. Bill of lading? No. Pick tickets printing? Yeah, if they're on the counter, maybe they need to print pick tickets immediately. Print a receipt, possibly. Quote print. Sales manager update. Blanket, yes. Are they doing any shipping? No, they're not going to do anything with shipping. Here's my order entry and inquiry. Fulfillment center, yes, that's a new feature. To inquire, pricing, yes. So I'm giving them all of this, but not credit release. It's not a function an order writer should have. To view exceptions, the OE reports, yeah, I give them reports. They can do that. So this is how I'm further defining what this order writer can do, what they can see, the screens that they can access. Again, the prior screens gave them access, gave them information that, yes, I can get to order entry, but on a sales order, can I override the ship to field? So can I change that ship to address? Can I change their terms? Can I override sales reps? So these are my permissions once I have access to these screens. And on the functional security, I'm giving them access. Also, and let me pull this back over. Give me just a second. So if you see, you notice on this table here for type or name, I'm sorry, the table for name, all functions for a module or a submodule, and the functional security level. So if I give them a level 1, I'm saying no access. So normally you don't, you won't see very many ones because if I'm not going to give them access, then I won't select that one. But maybe I'm only giving them inquiry only. They're order writers, so I give them a level 4. That's the highest level that you should give anyone, not a level 5, a level 4 for order entry. But they will also need to inquire on a customer's account. So for AR, I'm giving them a level 2, only for inquiry, not to have the ability to change anything. So no inquiry and change, just inquiry. But for a sales order writer, they need to be able to inquire on a sales order, change a sales order, and add a sales order. But for AR, maybe for order entry, they only have inquiry or inquiry and change, but not to add. And for AR, they probably will need to add some of them that they're going to do corrections. So that's a level 4 for OEET, but for everything else, maybe just inquiry only. So you'll see it says here, use caution when assigning level 5 full security to menu options. Be very careful. You normally only assign a level 5 to a manager or system administrator. So going back up and we're talking about the name, and if I go back to, let me go back to I'm looking here for name. So I have the ability to go by module, and you'll see that here by module, module plus sub menu, or the full functional acronym. So you must know acronyms to assign this. I'm going to pull this back over and we'll continue. So if I want to give them a functional area and just a OE entry, I only want them to have OE entry. So I'll do a search and you'll see just the OEE comes in. But remember, if I wanted that employee to be able to enter orders, I'll need to give them access to OE, then OEE, and also OEET. So I'll need to give them access to the module OE and then OE entry also, and then OEET if they're only entering orders. And again, you'll see set function security. Once I click that, here are my levels for everything that's checked. So everything that's checked, I'm assigning now functional security, that they either have no access, inquiry only, inquiry and change, inquiry change and add, or full security. And just be careful with the employees you're giving full security. Normally, the highest level you're going to give any employee, any operator, is a level 4. So with this available to set, you will always assign a menu set. You're going to always assign a menu set, but you're going to use one or the other for name, type, and title, not all three. So just to review again on the available to set, you're always going to enter a menu set, but you will not always use all three for type, title, and name. The most commonly used is name, that you're going to enter the acronym for access point, OE or AR, and you're going to set them, you're going to select all of your options that you want that employee to have, and then you're going to set the functional security. And what you're going to do is work with your consultant. They will have a chart based on commonly used access or functional security for each type, each functional type: an AR clerk, an AP clerk, inventory control specialist, a warehouse worker, a purchasing agent, a inside sales rep, an outside sales rep, sales manager, controller. They all will need different functional security. Counter inside sales rep versus an inside sales rep that may only enter direct orders, or a sales manager that really won't look at entering orders, but they may have more of the reporting. They may have more of the credit release. They may have the end of day cash draw balancing report. they will need different functional security than just an order writer. You'll have a chart, and then you'll just use that chart to set your functional security levels.